Hi, this is State Senator Tom George. Welcome to my program, Current Events. Today I have with me Mr. Richard Pietroski. And Richard, you are the CEO of Gift of Life of Michigan.
That's right, and thank you, Senator, for this kind invitation to come talk about organ donation with you this afternoon. And Gift of Life Michigan is one of 58 organ donor programs designated by the federal government. And our job is to match donor organs with families who want to give a gift to those individuals who are currently waiting for an organ transplant. Currently, nationwide, there are nearly 100,000 patients waiting for an organ transplant. And in the state of Michigan, in our great state, there are almost 3,000 individuals waiting for a life-saving gift.
And are they waiting for what organs generally?
The majority of the patients are waiting for a kidney transplant, so they're spending their time on dialysis machines, waiting for that chance, that second chance at life. The next organ in line would be that of liver, and but again, most of the patients are waiting for a kidney transplant.
And organ donation therapy, it's expanded and improved, and the results are, getting better as science progresses. So it's become more and more part of the mainstay of treatment, hasn't it?
Oh, indeed. I had the pleasure of attending the transplant games in Pittsburgh a few weeks ago, and during the opening ceremony, recipients who had the longest waiting transplants were invited up on stage, and there was one gentleman there who had his kidney transplant for almost 40 years. So as you mentioned, transplantation is mainstream medical therapy now, and it's amazing how immunosuppression or the medications to prevent rejection have improved tremendously, and individuals can live a long, healthy life because of the gift of somebody else.
So there's a real need for organ donors. And where do donors come from?
All organ donors start in a hospital. There is some type of injury that occurs to that patient's brain. They're taken to a hospital where they're stabilized, admitted to an intensive care unit, and then over a period of days, generally, their brain function is observed. And if the brain stops functioning, these patients who are mechanically ventilated on a machine are then determined to be candidates for organ donation. So it's a process. It's not a single event, and it's not deaths that may occur outside of a hospital that can become organ donors. Those individuals could become tissue donors for bone and for cornea and other forms of tissues, but all organ donors start in a hospital. And out of about 82,000 deaths that occur annually in the state of Michigan, only about 400 of those deaths are brain deaths, and those are the candidates for organ donation. So it's a very small chance, and so when families are presented with this opportunity, it is an opportunity, and it's very rare.
So it takes a certain set of circumstances where the patient has died, but their organs are usable or salvageable. Right. And normally if somebody dies outside the hospital, that's not going to be the case.
That's correct.
So it's a special set of circumstances, and so you have an opportunity, a little window to take advantage of that.
Yeah, it is a window, and it's a very narrow one, because when a patient's brain stops functioning, you can artificially support the rest of the body for a short period of time, maybe a day or two, but not much longer before the rest of the body starts to diminish in function.
So you're involved in securing organs then from hospitals all around the state?
All around the state of Michigan. We have about 140 hospitals, acute care centers that we work with on a daily basis. And under federal requirements, when a patient dies in a hospital, all deaths are reported to Gift of Life Michigan in the state of Michigan. And then what we do is we triage those deaths, those notifications, for patients who are on ventilators and who are not. And for, again, patients on ventilators, we send out a nurse coordinator to the hospital that works with the doctors and the nurses and the family, decide on what options that they would like to elect and what donations that they would like to consider. And then they make arrangements for the placement of organs, which is also regulated by a national office in Richmond, Virginia.
And in order to secure an organ, then you can't just go in the hospital and take one.
No.
You need to get permission. How does that work?
Well, there's two different types of permission. One is where the surviving family gives consent, and we go through a consent form, and they provide an informed decision about what they want to do, and they can limit their donations to a single organ or for any organ or any tissue. The other form of consent is called first-person consent. And so you or I, for example, can elect to become donors in advance of our death. And as a matter of fact, I have a brochure which is in reference to the state Show Us Your Heart campaign. You can make a decision to be a donor, register in the state registry to be a donor, and so upon your death, there is no further consent that's required.
So you can give your consent ahead of time.
Correct.
And we should talk a little bit more about that because this is, I think, a very important point here. And if somebody's watching at home, and again, I'm with Mr. Pietroski, who's the CEO of Gift of Life. So if somebody's watching at home and they go, I probably ought to be on the list,
right,
of potential donors, what should they do?
Well, there's really three different ways that they can register. One is through the Secretary of State's office, so when they go in to renew their driver's license or to buy a boating permit or any reason to go into the Secretary of State's office, they can register to become a donor at that time. They can also go to the Gift of Life website, which is Gift of Life Michigan, that's all one word, spelled out, .org, and you can click on to become a donor. And this Show Us Your Heart campaign logo will come up, and it takes about a minute to register and put in all your information, and this information is maintained by the Secretary of State. The third option is to fill out a brochure, like I'm holding here, and that can be received by calling our office toll-free at 800-482-4881. And we'll send you or send any caller this brochure. And if they belong to a civic organization or a church group or any other type of membership group, we're happy to send out a quantity of these. So if they want to initiate donor registrations within their programs, then we're more than welcome or willing to help them.
And the advantage of this would be if something ever happened to you and you're in this situation, then your group consults the list, mm-hmm, and it would then not be necessary to, if the family's divided or confused or not reachable maybe, or
exactly,
or difficult to to track down, then you've given your consent ahead of time. It's not something that's deferred to somebody else.
Correct, and it makes it much easier for the family that survives you. They know exactly what you wanted to do, and the limitations that you may want to apply to your donation of gifts. And as you explained, many times there are no family, or we have an individual who has no known identity at that point, but that's a different situation. But we are inviting anybody to sign up in the donor registry. Michigan right now has just under 20% of eligible persons signed up, which sounds okay, but on a national comparison, we're about half of where we need to be. Most states are around 40%, and there are even other states, such as Ohio and others, that are in the 60% range of eligible persons registered.
Why do you think that is?
We haven't had the support of which we have now of our Secretary of State office. Gift of Life has had this registry for about 10 years, but more recently the Secretary of State has recognized the need to promote the donor registry. Secretary Land has been a very good supporter for us, and so now her offices are helping us to promote the Show Us Your Heart Gift of Life organ donor registry, and we're seeing significant changes. So, but it takes individuals to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this with my family. I'm going to do this with the groups that I belong to or in my community.